We are back in business. Welcome to the work session for January 27th, 2026 at the Village Hall, Pinehurst. We are reconvening and we will go on to general business. Item A is a discussion of next steps for the Tufts Archives renovation and related fundraising. I asked that this be put on the agenda because I had been consistent at saying we wouldn't discuss this until we turned over a shovel of dirt, and sure enough, it worked out great. We turned over that shovel of dirt, and so that's been launched. But for particularly Kevin and Jeremy, you weren't here 2 years ago when we were discussing the whole enchilada about the library and the archives and all. But also for those of us who were here, it's a good time to refresh our memories of where things are. We are now building the new Given Memorial Library, about to, and the plan has always been to renovate the current facility, the old Given Memorial Library, and let it be both the Tufts Archives, all that square footage is there. But it would require some renovation. And we also talked in terms of moving the Welcome Center there and providing some sort of museum for a history museum of the Village of Pinehurst. And we've also had some inquiries from someone who wants to help us with a building of a permanent stage outside of the Tufts Archives. You know, right now we always put up these stages for events, the Christmas tree lighting, the U.S. Open, and other events. And so it's probably a wise thing to consider if we get good support to do something in those lines. But we need to brainstorm a little. Doug found I'll call it the old diagram of over 2 years ago, I guess, right, Doug? Which is, again, I think quite a refresher in what we've, where we were at that time. And when we discussed it back then, we had discussed a few things, and they were all really general ideas from the architect. And this was put together by the same architect that is now coordinating the library. And, one of the things that was discussed is, I'm going through topics from my old notes, is that the basement, which I think each of us may have had the privilege of walking through at one time or another, needs to be upgraded so that it can handle potential floods and it can be turned into a more of a storage facility as necessary, and whatever else our archivist thinks is appropriate. We talked in general terms about opening up the back of the archives with some steps so that people could walk out there and sort of make it a little more of a location for other potential events and make it a little grander. We talked about the possibility of filling in some square footage that's adjacent within the footprint, so to speak. There's a footprint on one side, a footprint on the other, and there's a vacant, we're missing toes in between of it. And that was one thing we talked about. Ideally, of course, when all the books in there, most of them, move over down the road here, and we have some sort of proposal as to a redesign, we would be able to, with professional assistance, envision what would that world look like. Because right now we can have our imaginations work for us, but there are professionals who know what they're doing here as opposed to us. So that was my purpose of adding this. I want to get people to hear their general thoughts. We're not going to make any decisions or anything like that now, but strikes me as we've got some, I'm going to say we have three sort of big decisions. One is the engagement of, or re-engagement, I guess, of our architect and engineer on this. Two is the engagement of a professional in this area of museum and archival arrangements. I mean, I'm hoping that we'll get to a point where we have some interactive programs there. Right now, it's a very sort of static when you go in there. But it could be more of a dynamic destination, because I do think it will become a real destination for people who visit here, particularly if we have the museum, small museum, and the Welcome Center. It's going to be a place where people will convene. And then thirdly, of course, we probably ought to refresh our memory on the costs associated. We've theoretically, at least Doug, I think we've saved a little money based on the library bids, and we've set aside some money already for, according to your memo, that we have for beginning this project. So those are just my general ideas, and we'll look forward to discussion. Doug, is there anything you want to add to the memo?
I will just highlight some things in the memo. So in the budget for fiscal year 26, we have roughly $8.5 million. The library is at roughly $6 million, so that leaves about $2.5 million for the archives renovation build out. We can jump into the pictures of what was originally proposed from the architects. So this is the archives maintaining the current footprint. So they're suggesting in the front room, which is the adult room right now for the library, this is kind of a museum area. The opposite side where the children's books are is, again, museum display, kind of visitor experience, with the little visitor center area, welcome center, and displays in the middle. Maintain the Eric Nelson room, maintain utilities and storage room, and the bathrooms over here, with the back being the research area, similar to what it is now for research work.
Doug, am I right? One of the things we're going to have to do is bring this in compliant with the ADA.
Yeah.
Okay.
So a few specific things. The front door is not ADA accessible, so we'd be building a ramp to get to the front stoop level. And then, Mayor, you did mention the stairs coming out the back. That could be a very nice feature because it would, walk out onto the village green, and it's a nice effect. It might be a little on the expensive side, but I kind of like it. And then, so you have here low estimate, high estimate for what this is. This is maintaining the existing envelope, so we're not tearing down any walls, exterior walls, just they all stay the same. This, like the mayor said, is about 2 years old, so who knows what has changed since then, but we did get pretty good bids for the library. Moving down, this is an expanded version of the library, so what they did is kind of fill in these gaps on the side here. I would
Point those out so I can.
So yeah, so specifically you're adding like this office and storage area here, and there's like a break room and these closets here. So my one word of caution is, this is quite a bit more money, and what are you getting? You're getting back office space. So
That's a good
just
point.
a word of caution there.
Now, these numbers, we said earlier we have about 2.5 left for the archives. So both numbers, whether it's the expand or the original one above it, are right now below the 2.5.
Yeah.
But what's one other thing? But this is a budget where we really didn't factor in, if I recall, any related fundraising, which would be added to what our budget is.
Yeah.
So that's a good situation, because it's a value added as fundraising takes place. But go ahead.
Yes, agreed. So a couple caveats that, yes, our current budget could cover even this expanded version, but this assumes basic FF&E, basic fixtures. It does not include a full build out of like a museum display experience. So if we want it to be more than static and we want fancier stuff,
Right.
it's going to cost a little bit more money.
Good point, good point.
But I also agree with you that fundraising moving forward, that's a value add that we can specifically say, hey, the village is, building the walls and, making sure all the HVAC, all that good stuff works. What you're actually donating for is an increased user experience, which might be a little better sell than, you're paying for a coat of paint.
And it could also potentially be, and we've adopted a policy, but it could potentially be a naming right issue in some of these cases.
Yeah,
Because
so-
the Eric Nelson room is Eric Nelson's.
Right, yeah,
But the
but,
rest of it,
yep, but we probably could have naming rights for the backspace, and whether that's two separate rooms or not, that's something we can figure out.
it's a good point.
And then these two rooms up front could easily be things, and you can get real creative. I mean, you can name the lobby, or you could, for the library, we're naming the bathrooms after Jeff Batten, so we can get real creative, yeah.
Well, I think that's sort of where we're at, isn't it?
So, Doug, can I ask, in scenario 1 and 2, so the current envelope and then the expanded envelope, does that bump up against regulations associated with the National Park Service and our landmark status?
So we would certainly need to have a conversation with them. I think they would be open to it, because we're sticking within, what is essentially the building envelope already. We're just kind of filling in these little gaps here. So I don't think they would see that as harming the overall national park status.
I have a hard time believing they would be fundamentally opposed to a municipally owned building for the purposes of celebrating or informing people on the history of Pinehurst
I didn't think of that.
for a modest change in footprint.
Yeah, more so
don't
my
think-
concern is it worth the dollar value to get
Right.
the
That's a,
space?
that's a different question.
Yeah,
I'm personally not particularly worried about the National Park Service if we decide to go that route.
Having,
I don't believe there's any trees. I mean, this is all walkway on this side, and this is like,
kind of a vacant, just a vacant space, my
the
recollection.
HVAC units are somewhere around here. They might be in this little cove. I'm trying
It
to
would
remember.
not be of significance.
No, no,
Let- let me-
there's no trees.
Let me ask a sort of math question. The difference between the square footage in these two is 7,100 square feet. Excuse me, 7,110,
710.
710 square feet. So I'm trying to understand, we're talking about an 8,000 square foot building, and John, you probably have your your little gadget right there. What does 710 square feet, what would that translate into money-wise? Is that,
Well, the difference is round numbers, $700,000.
About $900 square foot.
oh, okay, you're using a $900 square foot build-out number.
Well,
Well,
it just shows.
Yeah, here.
From $1.7 million to $2.4 million is 700,000 for 700 extra square feet. So that piece of the math is pretty simple. I suspect one of the reasons you don't have any foundation work there.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, adding exterior walls to an existing building is going to be very expensive for the price per square foot.
Yeah, I mean,
It is expensive.
I'm
but
sorry, Kevin,
something to
I don't want to.
consider.
Did you have more or other?
no, I did not, other than to say that I'm so enthusiastic about this project, and I really look forward to digging into this, right, making it come alive.
I was speaking with some people earlier after our groundbreaking, and this is going to be harder than the library. If anyone who's done renovation in their house, you get a quote from the contractor, and they say, that quote is good until you open up the walls, until we actually see. And when I say harder, I mean because it's an older building. We know there are water issues in the basement.
Volume of material that needs to be moved.
Right, and I'm not saying, none of this should be construed as negative, but as a practical matter, building a brand-new building where your only constraints are financial, basically. And once you set those, then the contractor goes to work, and we can do whatever we want. We have some pretty significant constraints here. Even if we assume for the moment that the National Park Service would be okay with anything we did. I remember, and I could be wrong about this, I did not research this. I thought we had approved a specific budget of $1.8 million for this building. We're within a couple $100,000. That's hugely important, but just from a process standpoint, did we approve a specific amount for this?
So we approved it overall to encompass both the library construction and the archives. So,
Okay.
I mean, you don't have to spend all of it. I mean, we likely will, but
And I think Doug's point is probably the biggest overarching one. This is the opportunity to say, do we want what looks like an old-style library for the purposes of housing the expanded collection of the archives, which the current facility is simply too small to fully display. So do we want that, or do we want something more contemporary, something more engaging? And that will drive the ultimate cost, but now is the time for us to really be figuring that out.
Well, let me just say something there. I think we owe it to our residents to see that that finished product looks very much like, on the outside, what it looks like now. Okay, internally, we've got a sort of a free hand there, but
Yeah.
externally, those columns, that brick, that's got to look like it when it's over.
yeah, and John said contemporary. I think he meant like the indoor experience, the experience of
okay.
the museum.
No.
Okay,
I'm
fine.
not,
I
I'm
heard
not thinking we're
contemporary,
gonna
I'm
knock
nervous.
the existing building down.
Yeah.
People like the building, I like the building. It's in the historic district, we still have to go to HPC conceivably, but, no, I'm talking about on the inside. We're not talking about putting an IMAX theater in.
No.
But there are certain other things that would make it be more like other, more recently developed, I'm gonna use science museums, archives, libraries, what have you. We're talking about a fairly heavy IT budget for the new library, and we're gonna have to think about that here.
Well, I do think, obviously, this is where we really need professional advice. And so one of the things we need to figure out is, how do we get that professional advice? I have one name that's over a year old of someone who's worked in the golf world doing museums. Maybe, but there may be others. And probably we should interview a few and see what you got comfortable with, and then we can discuss them.
Yep.
But I think that's the way to do it, rather than,
Yeah, I agree. So at a high level, I talked to the architect recently and said, now we have the groundbreaking, let's move forward. How do we handle a museum experience, a designer, and where does that fit into the schedule? And they actually gave me a name, the company that USGA used for their experience here, so that might be an option as well. So we need to move forward, coordinate with them, and get someone on board to help us design an experience in the front rooms of the new building.
I'm not expressing any dissatisfaction at all. Are we contractually obligated to stay with Oakley Collier?
When we signed the contract, it was for both the design of the
Okay.
library and this. If we wanted to change, there would be some avenues to do that if we wanted to.
I'm not suggesting but just, we have that option if,
do you have any reason that you think we should move?
No,
Okay, no, I'm fine with them, I just wanted to.
I'm very comfortable, especially, they're going to be doing the building envelope portions and not the tech savvy.
Right.
Exhibits, displays, things like that.
Okay. Now, again, I'm trying to blue sky this. We would probably anticipate another shovel turning of dirt, perhaps a year from now for that, given the 365 days that we expect them to finish the library. I think one of the things we need to think about is there's some things in there that we're going to need to put in storage in the archives. If we have to clear it out, I suppose there are contractors that can do it in sections, but my hunch is we're going to probably move things out. The books will go to the library, but other things need to go in some safe storage place, in which I think we do have a storage place, we may need a bigger one for a while.
Yeah, and yeah, we want to make sure it's, you know, climate controlled, things like that. And there may even be spaces in here that will be accessible and
Okay, maybe perhaps here. The other thing is, I would like to get some general concepts from Audrey. If she's got some, she's been at this for a while, she may have some real thoughts, some stuff that we've missed in our brainstorming session, and she may have names of people to contact, but, so I would loop her in there.
really want to keep Audrey involved. Yeah.
Yeah, and to add on to that, either from Audrey or the foundation, an idea or some feedback on how needed the extra storage space would be, because I think it's a very, very hefty price to pay for storage space. So, you know, how pertinent is it?
Yeah, good question. I would say, so moving forward, one, I need to, you know, talk with the architects, get on the same page, work with them to find a consultant for the museum portion. Then separately from that, I think we need to have some conversations with the Given Tufts organization about what are the next fundraising steps. And I think we're all open to that. We just want to make sure we're on the same page and as we move down that road.
I think we've decided that the foundation would be taking the lead in fundraising, not us or the village staff.
Correct, yeah.
And
We have our money. Okay, they're gonna be fundraising
I did
other
go
monies.
back in prepping for the session tonight, I went back and I looked through some of the material from, I believe, 2021, the surveys that were done, public comments. There was a whole section on the report they had gotten from a consultant with respect to fundraising
Right.
and establishing a price list, and they kind of laid it out. That probably needs to be updated. I think there are two things that appear not to be for sale. Number one, the name of the building. I think that probably is not for sale.
Right,
And at least the one room is probably, and maybe there are others, I'm not sure.
That's probably right.
But kind of creating an inventory of possible naming opportunities and a price list is something that they are going to need. And
Yeah.
if there was one common theme, it was not unanimous, but very few people wanted to give money to a library.
that's right.
People were interested. They said, I like the fact that the village has lots of money, they should just do it. No one ever asked where that money came from. That's a different question. But this will be something that they will need, and something that I think we can work on with them together to come up with something that's reasonable.
Yep. Other thoughts, ideas, throw out whatever you're thinking about, because we at least need to sort of kick things off in the coming month or so, because there's a lot of things to put in motion, searching for the right advisor, so to speak.
Yeah.
And
And I guess conceptually, staying with the money for the moment, are we taking the point of view that we have a budget to cover bricks and mortar, I'll call it bricks and mortar. And some, we'll have to see what we can do in terms of what goes on the inside. And anything that fundraising raises is in addition to that.
yeah, I would think so.
Yeah,
There
that
was-
was my thought process, yeah.
Right, if they raise $10 million, we can put
Great.
an IMAX theater in there, and if they raise 10 cents, we have to adjust accordingly, so.
Yeah.
The real number will be in between, I'm pretty sure.
Never getting an old projector to, you know, show a movie on, yeah. Yeah.
I've had a little experience with fundraising for naming items. And as I look at the layout here, I can tell you that each one of those rooms, with the exception of Eric Nelson, are worthy of a name. You're going to have the Pinehurst Historical Museum, Willardson Pinehurst Historical Museum. You may have the John Taylor this, and so forth. I'm just using that hypothetically, because if people have a real interest, you name anything.
Looking at the storage closet very carefully.
All right. There's plaques, there's room naming, there's a whole bunch of, once people start getting their creative juices flowing, we'll see a lot of things.
I would also say that we could probably also put together a list of things that could be named at the new library as well, that if people are interested, sure, we would consider
Absolutely.
it.
Absolutely. All right, other, this is totally brainstorming, so we're just trying to, I think we've got a good outline of a to-do list and to take the necessary steps so that we're just moving the ball forward.
You know, it just occurs to me now that he's not busy with being on council, maybe Jack would like to head up fund naming opportunities for the library.
Good, certainly he'll be involved.
I was going to suggest also that maybe we should consider, Jack Farrell as a naming right if we didn't sell everything, as well as Audrey Moriarty at some point in time. Any of the new library.
All those things can be considered. And we got the storage room downstairs.
Well, Jack's used to us, picking on him a little bit. We can really find something creative.
Yeah, he spent a lot of time in that storage room, he told me.
We did.
Jack Farrell elevator, maybe.
That's
Yeah,
right.
that's,
That's right.
that's the type of fundraising naming things that I have seen. All right, any other thing to discuss here? You're going to chat with Gibbons Tufts. We're going to try to get you some names for potential technical assistance experts.
Yeah,
And
if
you'll-
you have any, send them our way, and
That's-
the architect will have some names as well.
Oh, good, okay. All right, that is helpful, that's where I was hoping we'd get to, and we'll, at the right time, reconvene on this. Maybe it's the end of February to see, just have a gut check where we are, March, whatever you're comfortable with, or where there's enough that's been done that you can bring us up to speed.
Perfect.
Okay. All right. That concludes the archives renovation and related fundraising item A. Now we move on to the review of the Senior Advisory Committee policy and implementation steps. So give me a moment so I can get to my page here. Okay. Doug, you have, I get your memo's right up there. And I don't know if there's anything you want to address in particular regarding the memo or itself. And then I'd ask Kevin if you would get on the tail end of that and then also take us to a discussion of a preparation, rollout, et cetera. Okay?
So I don't want to take too much credit because anything that's really been done on this, Kevin's done. So I will.
Fair enough?
But a few changes to the policy document, specifically like the word inclusion was removed because it wasn't at any time that we were trying to exclude seniors, but now we're just trying to recognize them a little more formally. And then a few things like we removed the newsletter. We don't want to have too many newsletters going out from the village, and but we do want to make sure that we have appropriate information, and we think that can be done on the website. Then Kevin did a great job putting together kind of a rollout, what the framework would look like as the committee moves from gathering members to holding their first meetings to what expectations should there be within the first year to 2 years of the committee existing. And with that, Kevin, I will let you fill in all the details.
Oh, 1 second, I just wanted to say, if you're like me, you may have gotten comments from people. We all got some emails. I had 2 people who wanted to be on it, okay? So I said, well, look for the announcement, and there's a process. One of the persons specifically wanted to represent a certain neighborhood. I said, yeah, I said, no, Ed, it's not going to be neighborhood broken out like the NAC. It's okay. So, but look for the announcement. And then there was a couple of folks that said, had their own ideas for another advisory committee. So that's what's bubbled around and came to me. I don't know what came to others, but this is my way of background. Go ahead, Kevin.
Sure, thanks, Mr. Mayor. I think what we have before us tonight is, I think, a relatively straightforward proposal to create the Senior Advisory Committee for the village. At its core, it's really about listening in a more intentional way. Pinehurst has a large, active, and deeply engaged population of older residents, and many of them want to continue contributing, not just commenting from the sidelines. This committee gives us a practical way to tap into that wealth of experience and their unique perspective. The policy itself is meant to keep things clear and grounded. It sets expectations about who serves, how the committee works, and how the staff supports it. This is not about creating another layer of process or a place to air grievances. It's about thoughtful input, problem solving, and helping us see our community through the lens of aging well. I think if we get this right, the payoff is big. It helps us think ahead about accessibility, mobility, safety, connection, and how people continue to live full, independent lives here as they age. That's good for seniors today, and it's good for every one of us who plans to stay in Pinehurst long term. Pinehurst has long valued stewardship, foresight, and care for its community. Embracing an age-friendly framework is a natural extension of those values. A community that enables its residents to age well is almost without exception a community that works better for everyone. And with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions about the structure or the rollout plan.
I'll defer to others, and then I'll clean up at the end. I don't know. Mr. Taylor?
I had a couple centered around, I think, two aspects. And obviously, Kevin, this is something you've spent an enormous amount of time on. I'm still not sure we have right the responsibilities of village staff. And looking at village support to SAC members, briefing materials, policy documents, program summaries. I don't know that there's anyone on staff who has the expertise to be looking for those or finding them. It's not that it's not a good idea. I'm just not sure we have that. I defer to Doug. And the second, information on age-friendly best practices, accessibility standards, it kind of goes hand in hand with ADA, and we may have that in the planning department, but I think we need to look carefully at that to be sure that we are not creating an expectation for which we do not have either the staffing or the expertise. That said, I was tremendously impressed by the two people who came and spoke to the last meeting, who obviously have substantial subject matter expertise. I think hopefully they will want to serve on the committee, and they will be, those people will probably be a better source for this material than staff will be, is I guess what I'm saying.
I agree completely with that. I think a lot of this domain expertise comes from the members, the citizen members, and not the staff.
No. The very last bullet point along the same line, village manager in consultation with mayor shall schedule presentations and briefings relative to senior issues and age-friendly practices. Okay, I think that's for the committee to do, for them to figure out what they think would be worthwhile, as opposed to Doug or Pat or someone else. Minor points, but again, trying to get this right.
So John, if we can, maybe focus on those comments for a second. Are you thinking that we create another section that's like expectations of like SAC members, or just delete those couple bullets from the village support
I would be in
staffers?
favor of deleting those. I think this will come naturally out of the members of the SAC. I think particularly the people who initially want to serve, is probably that's what they want to do. They have
Exactly.
ideas already, and I'm not sure that staff is going to need to do it.
Yeah, we're more the support staff, not necessarily the subject matter experts.
Right.
Although we like to pretend we know everything.
And I think there was something in here which I thought I had noted, but I can't find it immediately, on the police department focusing on fraud and cybercrime. I wouldn't want to, I think that is an issue for people of all age groups. Certainly seniors may be more frequently targeted, but raising their awareness is no different than raising the awareness of people of any age about how these things operate and what to look out for. So I wouldn't want to say that the police had to have a specific elder cybercrime versus general cybercrime, if I can phrase it that way.
That makes perfect sense. But I think it goes back to the point that if you're creating an age-friendly community, it raises the boats. All the boats raise on this, right? It's a tide that raises quality of life for all citizens.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Just don't want, they shouldn't have to do anything extra just for that component of, they should be doing that anyway and applying it to all segments of the population. The other overarching, the rollout, I think it's fabulous that you've actually thought about this out 24 months. I would have probably made this a little less centrally planned and allowed the committee, once convened, to do a little bit more of this, which again is not to argue with any of these points. Publicizing this more broadly, an article in the pilot, and its presentation to the NAC and so forth. All good ideas.
I'm gonna jump in on the roadmap. I think on the establishing a monthly meeting schedule and reserve assembly hall, I think the schedule should probably mirror, not be the same day, as the NAC. We take off the summer, meet the other months, okay? So, or whatever it is, 10 times a year, a la the NAC was my note. I think rather than editorial, that should be op-ed in the pilot, rather than expecting them to write something. When we announce appointments, I assume those people, I actually think this would be good, will come before the council, and so we can officially bless them, but I think it'd be good for the residents to see and hear directly from these folks who are going to all of a sudden volunteer their time and effort, so they have some confidence in it, and because they're the ones who really are going to own it. We may provide some management assistance, but I see them as coming forward that way. Where am I here? I'm down to, I think that you have 3 bullets there that say understand, the nature of this, the nature and the frequency of that. I am also interested in that. What I was scribbled here is that I'd like to know the metrics of what is the nature and scope of online fraud abuse affecting Pinehurst seniors. What is the number of seniors we have in the village of Pinehurst? I don't know that number now. I know the median age of people in Pinehurst is about 59, okay? But I don't know exactly how many seniors are in this village right now. And I think that's the type of metrics and data we need as we go into this. Same thing with the EMS calls. I don't know if they chart those by age or they guess the age of the caller. The First Health ER visits, well, First Health should probably have that.
And they're pulling that data for me.
Okay, and then we need to nail down whether they're Pinehurst seniors or they're not Pinehurst seniors.
Exactly.
Okay.
And they have all that in their electronic medical record. But it would be nice to know what's happening to our citizens on the worst day of their life.
Yes, it would be. Working closely with Pinehurst PD, develop and disseminate online scam avoidance. Yeah, I'm with it. I mentioned earlier the idea of Community Connect, which is one of those things available, the Code Red, which Doug mentioned earlier. These are things that should fit right in the wheelbarrow with seniors who sometimes may feel they're not being notified or they're not sure where to get their information. And of course, use of our website. I am interested in the metrics on Pinehurst Parks and Recreation programs. We have a lot of participants. I don't know if we collect data by age, but we certainly know the programs, and some might be more directed to seniors than others. So I think that would be very useful information for us to have as we get to the finish line here. And then you got me doing a lot of research, Kevin. When you write stuff, you just send me on a research task all the time here. I did stumble on, and I will say I was not aware of this, that Moore County has an aging advisory council. Now, I was not aware of that. Maybe I'll be the only one here who's not aware of that. It's okay if I am. And they also have a nursing and adult care home community advisory committee. So how do those dovetail with our efforts? That's a generic question I have, and you don't need to answer now. But I just want to get an understanding of that.
I think you put your finger on one of the central issues here with the advisory committee. And that is that it's not to reinvent the wheel, but rather it's to understand what's the universe of resources that surrounds us. How can we direct our citizens to them with greater precision, right? How can we be a connector between what the VA might offer, what the county might offer, what the Senior Enrichment Center might offer?
I think I'd propose trying to inventory municipal programs and county programs to see where there's overlap, where there are gaps, and what have you.
And I think that's the work of the first year of this, is
Yeah.
it's not to start making suggestions, it's to collect data so you can have evidence-based decisions coming out of this.
There are 7 members on the Moore County Aging Advisory Council, they call it. I don't know if any of them are Pinehurst residents, but it'd be nice to know. Because I don't know if we've ever been asked to provide a name. Do you recall that, Doug?
I mean, they don't ask us, so they,
Okay.
but one of them may be a Pinehurst resident.
Okay.
I believe that they would be the subject matter experts that we would be talking to, leaning on to gather information to help us serve our seniors.
Okay, well, that was, again, you had me going off to find research as I'm trying to learn more.
I was speaking to Mickey about this, and he was suggesting that their the senior physicians.
Yes. Easy for you to say.
Geriatricians.
Providers would certainly be made available to us as well as consultants.
Let me ask you this, what type of senior focus does First Health have themselves? I mean, I know they have a cancer center. They're building a women's center, I believe. They have
Art Center.
right. Yeah, they have a. Do they have any of their own program that is senior specific?
They do in their exercise facilities.
Okay.
They have some extensive programs on balance and mobility that are really important for seniors, right? But as Mickey was pointing out, if you look at the demographics of who's getting admitted to that hospital, it's overwhelmingly a senior population.
Skews old, I would assume.
Yeah, I'm sure. Okay. Other thoughts or comments, questions for Kevin? And because I think we're getting closer to a final document, and we can keep polishing it up and take it up real soon. Those are my thoughts anyway. Go ahead.
Ms. Barber, you want to comment?
Mike. Mike. Okay, yeah, please. That's okay, just speaking to the mic.
I think it's a great start. I'm anxious to get started with Kevin, to see where it goes. Lots of opportunity here, and we'll just, see where it takes us, but hopefully soon.
I was just going to say, Pinehurst always needs to be very attractive to that retirement settler. It's a lot of who we've been, a lot of what creates our environment today. And I think this is helpful, so thank you, Kevin, for being, again, that subject matter expert. The only comment I've got to make, and I'm refraining from being picky here because this looks really smart and looks like it was written by someone that's really smart from Duke University. For a guy that came from Central Oklahoma University, the part that I know is that we need guys like
Where
you.
this is going, yeah, I have
That's
no
all right.
idea where this is going.
No, it's okay. Because the only thing I know is that when we have this much vision towards something in the details that we have, the implementation a lot of times 1 year, 2 years, 3 years out is usually a little bit different if we're successful than that actual initial vision at the starting line. And so my only comment would just be save some flexibility, really for that involvement in that 1 year and 2 year. And otherwise, I think it's great. So
That's an excellent point, Jeremy. This is a document that I was writing in the sense of what's within the realm of the possible, right? But ultimately, it's going to be the members that we recruit into this committee that are going to determine the nature and direction of the work.
Now, I think they're unlikely to look at this and say, this is, 60% of this is wrong. This is all very much in the right direction. And we're talking about 5 and 10 degree course corrections here, 20 degree, I don't know. But again, I was struck by the expertise of the two people who spoke to us last meeting. I'm sure there are 4, 5, 6 others, if not 7 or 10 or 15 others. And I would view that your rollout be more viewed as an outline for them, and they will take that and amend as necessary in ways that probably make it even better than it already is. And it is not bad now. I'm not suggesting that.
Anything else? Well, let's take a shot at polishing up the things we have here. Maybe a few things that you might be able to provide some answers to that were raised. And then, Doug, if not the next meeting, the following one, I think we'll be ready to tee this up. I do want to, I think it's important that we leave ourselves some lead time to make the rollout successful. So, I mean,
I thought the rollout schedule was aggressive.
yeah, it is, but,
Not to suggest we shouldn't aim high.
No.
But
it is, but it's achievable, but we just need to make sure we got it just right, because things will pop up, and,
We get
Yeah.
we get one shot at rolling this out.
yeah, it's tough to make a good first impression the second time you meet somebody. Remember when your mom told you that? My mom told me that all the time. So, okay. I think we've concluded that discussion, and we'll look forward to bringing this to fruition in the very near future. Does anybody have anything else they'd like to bring up? And Doug, do you have anything do you want to remind us about, other than, I know the next meeting we did talk about the Board of Adjustment nomination to come forward.
Yep. Reminder about Friday and Saturday, wear your snow boots. So
I think maybe the only thing I would say, going back to the discussion Jeremy and I had with DOT, to the extent that we are going to communicate formally to the DOT, they, I think, are viewing this as the train is leaving the station, and by May, when they're at 25%, subsequent to that, any changes will be much more difficult to accomplish. So I think we are on an accelerated time frame to the extent we want to express other opinions and/or suggest other options.
Yeah, I think that's clear. I think we've demonstrated in the past as a village council and as village residents that we are not shy of advocating our opinions on this. We've always wanted to improve the circle, don't destroy it. We know that there's been some improvements made through the bollards and other things, and I think we just need to look at all 4 corners of the page and figure out what is the best avenue for us to take. I have not detected any groundswell of support for the last proposal. Matter of fact, it did have a moment, and then the moment died, I think, after the pilot had a very interesting editorial, and the population numbers adjusting, all that stuff. But we need to give serious consideration as to how we take our next steps, and I think we probably will have a discussion maybe at the next work session.
Yeah, and I will also say, I don't think I mentioned this earlier, I actually received yesterday the actual 238, I think it was, comments that were sent into the DOT. They sent me an Excel spreadsheet. Did not have a chance to look at that before here, but between now and when it snows, I will try to get through that and send out any summary thoughts that we have on that.
yeah.
Thank you.
I just want to add real quick. I think John's exactly right that, as we get closer to May, our ability to influence will decrease. I think it will be very helpful for us to be very specific on what we want to see changed. Otherwise, they're like, well, you say you don't like it, but what do you really want to?
I agree with that. Specificity is important, and of course, they're still doing some research. They didn't know about the septic tank issue, and I was sort of very impressed with their circle there. I was surprised about that. I didn't know about and I don't know if it's true, but one person from Pinehurst Manor sent an email saying that they're going to lose, I don't know if this is true, one of the homes on there in the manor. I don't know if that's true, but if they think it's true,
Yeah,
it's a
that's an issue.
problem.
Yeah,
And now the
and-
Pinehurst Trace people I have heard from too. And we're still dealing, this, I'll address the sound barrier at some other time, but I grew up in New York City. I know what a sound barrier looks like. It does not look like the Village of Pinehurst, but we'll leave it at that for now.
I'll make a note as well. So I think, so two things. One is I think that I believe our citizen base showed up and they were very, very loud. That's very clear. I think many of our citizens then believed that it was over, and I think they're a little bit fatigued. One question that I've been asked a lot, so I asked DOT, was, hey, where did this design come from? Because it's not part of the original design options. So their response was that it came out of a meeting they had directly after the Pinehurst response that we did not like is that how you heard it? That we did not like the shifted pillow. So apparently they all met as a group, they drew up the concept, and they said, let's go with it. That was last May. So this concept is not even a year old. So implementation of this concept, I'm just wanting to make sure that they're prudent with it, that they're making sure that all things are done. Is that how you read that?
I think what I'm going to see in the comments is, we like this better than the CFI, but that doesn't mean we like it absolutely. That's a guess. We'll see what the comments actually say. But
All righty. Hearing nothing else, I'll entertain a motion.
I move to adjourn the work session.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
We're adjourned.